Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with the History, where I'll take you on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. There's more to this world than what most people think or believe. Mysteries that stretch back into murky epochs of time, that hint of other realms, other worlds, and other intelligences. We're on this journey together. With each episode, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. Hello to everyone in the live chat, the live chatters. There's a lot of mysterious locations around the world, many of which we've looked at in episodes of this show. But today, we're going to take a deep dive into the oceans of the planet, looking at ancient submerged cities and ruins, some of which appear to point back to a time before the last ice age, to a lost epoch of time, a golden age of forgotten civilizations. As the Earth is more than 70% water, who knows what lurks underneath our oceans? Our oceans are less than 10% mapped by modern sonar technology, but even so, there have been amazing finds of ancient cities, temples, statues, ruins, and even roadways that hint of long lost epochs of time in human history. Could the ruins of Atlantis or Lemuria already have been discovered? So I was blown away by the amount of underwater ruins there are and the stories and legends surrounding them. And with that, it's time to bring in my awesome co host and mentor, Jimmy Church of Fade to Black Radio. Jimmy, tell me, how is it going today?
Rick and Morty.
Nice. I like the shirt.
That's it. Have you watched Rick and Morty?
I haven't. I've seen little clips, but I've never really seen the whole TV show.
Get another host. Get another co-host. That's it. I'm done. I'm out. I'm checking out. I'm packing up my things. I'm moving out.
No.
Rick and Morty is the greatest TV show ever made. Forget about Star Trek, the original series.
What?
Stranger Things. Game of Thrones. Rick and Morty, man.
That's where it's at.
It is everything that you do on this show, everything that you think about every day, everything that you research, where your mind goes and you expand. It's in Rick and Morty. All of it. Aliens, time travel, vortexes, anti-gravity, wormholes, time travel. It's all in there.
Everything.
It's amazing, and it's for adults. You know, you gotta be able to handle potty language. Jessica Rodriguez coming in strong with 20
Thank
votes.
you so much, Jessica.
20 ducks quacking in Christina's ramen bowl. Very nice, very nice. Another great topic this week is something that I'm fascinated with, and Christina sent me her show notes, all fantastic, and we're going to get to all of that today. But you left a few things off of the list, and so maybe we'll squeeze some of that in. But the point being, there's a lot out there. And there is. There's a lot out there that we just don't see. And you brought up the best point of all. We have mapped 5%. 5%. That's 90, which encompasses most of the earth, right? Is oceans and water.
Right.
And we absolutely don't know what's under there. We just don't. We don't have a clue. And I have said this many times. I have done a lot of sailing. I've done a lot of boat work. I've lived on the Pacific Ocean down in Central America in Panama. And when you go out on the open ocean and you're out there on a boat and you look around and the only thing you can think about is, holy crap, what's under there? Right? That's all you can, because it goes on forever.
Seems that way.
Yeah, and forever's a long, you know, and you just don't know. You don't have any idea. We're starting to get a little bit better of an understanding of that. But when you go into the historical context and you see some of the civilizations and cultures around the world that used to be. We're going to cover, Israel today. We're going to talk about India today, and these are exciting places. Of course, Atlantis, but the truth is, the facts are, we've gone through many climatic changes, different ice ages, warming, cooling. Sea levels have risen, sea levels have fallen, and where the shoreline was 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, and where it is today, it's two different things. And what do we do, Christina? Where do we live where the food is,
That's
right?
right.
We live
Food
where
and
the
water.
action is. You live next to the water, where you've got water, where you've got fish and food and things, right? And if that changes, potentially these cities and civilizations that were there got buried. And that is just a fact of life. And we're going to cover that today. And I think it's just fascinating. Now, I'm going to hand things off to you. But before I get there, my comment is a real one. You live where the food is. That's what you do. You live where the food is. So, throughout the last 100,000 or 200,000 years, that's where everybody lived. You didn't live in the middle of a desert. You didn't live in the middle of frozen tundra. You lived where not only there was food, but other people lived there too, and you had a climate, and it was nice, and that's it. Well, none of that exists today. Why? Well, it's buried underwater. And that's where we need to go and look and find things. And that includes throughout the Mediterranean, throughout Asia, throughout Central and South America, Northern Europe.
Hmm.
All of these shorelines have civilizations that are now underwater. And that's a fact. I see,
And it
I see
makes it really exciting.
your RV donations are coming in. Thank you for that, Michael.
Thank you. Michael says, "Good evening, both from the city of Aussie. Great subject again. But do you believe our historical timeline is way off? And why are we teaching history which is not correct?" Well, in my opinion, knowledge is power, right? If you
Yeah.
teach things strategically, you're still going to have power over the public. So that's why you guys come here, right? And on Fade to Black, so you can fill in those gaps.
Well, it's certainly true, and Michael brings up one of the best points that I try to talk about a lot, and I think that, which is this. Before I just go off on a tangent, a day, a week, a year, to us today may not be what the ancients thought of.
That's
And
right.
so when very, very simple things, when we say today something is 5,000 years old, so wait a minute, how do we, the historical record says, and we can look at, we need to stop right there. um, it- Things are thrown off, and our historical timeline could be completely off to the reality of things, to the point of 10, 20, 30, 40,000 years. We don't know. 100,000 years, we don't know. And Egypt and Mesopotamia are great examples of this, but we're going to talk about Titicaca and Tiwanaku in a little bit. We're talking about 15,000 years old, back into the historical record there, and which goes past the end of the last ice age. What are we really talking about? And yes, so absolutely, our historical timelines in a modern sense could be way off.
So, for this show in particular, I definitely recommend for those that are listening to have a notepad and pen because we're going to be throwing out dates. And I really want you to pay attention to the time periods that we're throwing at you. Mark Tasaka, thank you so much. It says, "Jimmy and Christina missed your Thursday live shows for the last two shows. I'm glad that I could catch your live show today." Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you so much. You know what, Jimmy? I usually start off with the first story, but I'm gonna change it up. I'm
Oh,
I'm gonna I'm gonna give you the wheel. Or do you want to go first?
okay. Well, hold on. Okay, you've just got to catch me completely sideways here, right? Okay, so if I was gonna go anywhere first, oh man, these are all great.
They're all so
Okay,
fascinating.
I should almost catch you. Okay, you want to do that? Maybe I should catch you by surprise and choose something that's not on the list. But I
Uh-huh.
won't do that to you. I
All right.
not that
No,
not.
then I want to hear it. No, wait.
I want to see
Tell
if
us. Start off with your favorite. Start
can.
off with your favorite.
Well, if I'm going to go with my favorite, I'm going to go with Tiwanaku and Lake Titicaca. So
This
can we
one's so
start there?
cool. Absolutely. This one's fascinating. David, thank you so much. It says, make sure you buy the good ramen.
I
I
ate
will.
the good ramen today. You know what I did today? So what
You
I
sent me
did,
a picture.
I did. I prep. I look. I'm serious, man. I live it. I live it. I lead by example. So when I prep for Christina's show, I prep with a bowl of ramen, get my notes together. I sit down and I start to work with my ramen. And so today I snapped a picture and sent it to Christina. Show prep. Boom.
Living the dream.
I walk the walk, Christina? Tell him.
Yes, you do.
Tell him. This is, you know what's fascinating about this? I'm going to hand this off to you. But the boats that they use on Titicaca resemble the reed boats from Egypt.
That's
And
right.
I am fascinated with that aspect of it. Here they're painted, and I've seen lots of pictures like this, and many of the other ones are still natural reed boats that the Phoenicians and the Egyptians used not only in the Mediterranean and at the entrance or exit of the Nile in Lower Egypt, up near Cairo. Yeah, there's another one, natural reed boat, but has been proven that these boats, these reed boats, and Thor Heyerdahl did this in 1970, 71, where he sailed from Gibraltar all the way to Bermuda in the Kon-Tiki 2, a reed boat proving that the Egyptians could have and probably did sail from the Mediterranean all the way to the New World. And here are the boats in the middle of Peru. And I just find that fascinating. Okay, tell us about Lake Titicaca and why do we have Lake Titicaca starting our underwater cities episode?
This is a really cool one. So, in the year 2000, a team of international archaeologists made a spectacular discovery when they found the ruins of a mysterious underwater temple. The temple is thought to be anywhere between 1,000 to about 15,000 years old, hence predating the Inca civilization, and was perhaps built by the Tiwanaku people. So, in terms of size, the ruins have been measured to be about 200 meters by about 50 meters, so almost the size of two normal football fields. So it's been reported that more than 200 divers were collected all of these different types of ruins and they filmed it. And they also found traces of crops, long roads, and an 800-meter long wall under Lake Titicaca as well. But they also found metal objects, cooking utensils, along with human and animal remains. But what's very interesting about Lake Titicaca is the legend that's attached to it. Jimmy, I'll let you take this one away.
Man, the crazy part about this, and there were some. Oh man, I don't want to go too far into crazy town here, but there were talks like Lake Titicaca. Let's see because we have evidence of an entire city at the bottom of this lake. Now, the erosion and the evidence that is there on the rim of Lake Titicaca that continues down on the shorelines. Um, we are talking about, and this is what upsets everybody. We are talking about the possibilities here of organized civilization, high tech culture. Potentially 15,000 years and older, and the size of Lake Titicaca has expanded. It has shrunk over the last 10,000 years. But what was actually there? A completely sacred site. The establishment of the Incas that came much later. And so back to what you had just brought up here, when I talk about these amazing timelines, we're talking about, millennia on millennia on millennia. When the, I'm going to say, well, I'll say the Spanish. I was going to say the white man. When the Spanish showed up and they wanted to know and they started asking questions, who built this? How did this get here? Who built this temple? Where did that come from? It's like, it wasn't us.
Right.
It was the gods, right? And the description of those gods were also pretty fascinating. That being said, it wasn't Inca. Now, Inca, sure, was there. Absolutely. There's no question about it. But all of this predates the Inca, and this happens all over Peru and all over Bolivia at all of the sites. You can see the Inca additions to the previously built sites with these roadways and megalithic walls and stones. And it's a fascinating part of history, one that we have to look at the factual side of it. We know when the Incas arrived, who was there before. And Lake Titicaca, Tiwanaku, Pumapunku are all evidence of this. When the Incas got there, Pumapunku was already there. The ruins of Titicaca and Tiwanaku, they were already there for 10,000 years.
That's right. And the myth attached to this lake is very spectacular. And I just showed the picture of one of the Incan creation gods, right? The myth. And this god was the Contique Viracocha. And it emerged from Lake Titicaca, bringing some human beings with him. So after commanding the sun, the moon, and the stars to rise, Viracocha created more human beings from stone. After bringing them to life, the god commanded them to go and, you know, reproduce, right, with on the planet. So the Incas therefore believed that Lake Titicaca was their place of origin, and upon death their spirits would return to the lake. So just based on this story alone, could this be some type of ancient underwater base or an underwater civilization? I know it does sound like a stretch, but when we do this show, we have to think outside of the box and to look at all of the possibilities, because we do know that our world is incredibly mysterious.
Now, you can go ahead and show this image that I've got here. And that, now I'm going to go with allegedly. Okay. Now, this is a very widely distributed image from one of the videos from the bottom of Lake Titicaca. Now, when you look at this, now, could it be Photoshop? Could it be fake? Could it be this? One of the before we continue, one of the most photoshopped images on the web is the underwater right, the underwater structure, the underwater this, and it's done a lot, but this image seems to be pretty solid, so that's why I wanted to share this first. Now it shows a stairway. You can see the bulls, you can see some of the sun representations there, but this is fascinating. and I've seen the maps and the sonar images of what is underneath Lake Titicaca, and it's incredible. The other part about this, Christina, the water is crystal clear.
That's right.
You don't have distortions from stuff that's in the water, where not only is your how far away you can see things that's interrupted, but things get distorted. Not at Lake Titicaca. Everything is razor crispy clear, and it's easy to photograph, and the depth is not too bad. Sunlight gets down there, so this may be what is underneath the waters of Lake Titicaca. Now that being said, going back to your image of the gods, here's the thing: we talk about Pumapunku and Titicaca, and we talk about Tiwanaku. Titicaca is the largest landlocked lake in the world. It sits at 12,000 feet above sea level. It's the largest. It is big. It's not small, and it's right there. The other part, though, when we talk about Pumapunku and the god that you just showed, Kantiki, and Tiwanaku, all of this is just a walking distance from Titicaca. So over at Pumapunku, when I say walking distance, I'm talking about a quarter mile. Right? It's like right there, right? You can just it's right there. So and Peru and Bolivia, the border for the country, splits everything. So one part is Peru and the other part is Bolivia, but you are within. You can see the two countries from all of these points. Pumapunku has a sun gate, and at the top of the sun gate is some of these gods that you just depicted at the top. The sun gate could only have aligned to certain stars. I'm not going to get specific and technical now, but 15,000 years ago. Now, we are talking about the construction, and this pours over to Titicaca and Tiwanaku.
Mhm.
Again, all of these structures, the same structure, the same civilization, the same cultures did all of this at the same time. Now it's Peru and Bolivia, but everybody needs to understand when you go and do the research and you write this down and you go and look and you see where Pumapunku is, you see where Tiwanaku is, and you see where Titicaca is, you understand that this is all the same place. It's only separated by modern borders and things and civilization today. That being said, 15,000 years ago, these blocks were cut, these temples were built, the Sun Gate was built, Tiwanaku and Titicaca, and these things were done when they didn't have apparently any trees. This is at 12,000 feet above sea level. They didn't have writing instruments, they didn't have a written language, but they were able to cut and build the most intricate stone structures that you can find anywhere on planet Earth. Anywhere. The most beautifully carved, cut, some say with laser precision, and I would say that that is true. And all of this were done at these sites at Lake Titicaca, Tiwanaku, and Pumapunku, one of the most important sites in the world. And whenever I have Giorgio Tsoukalos on the show, I ask him the same question. Has your opinion changed about the most important site in the world? He says, no, Jimmy, it's still Pumapunku, Tiwanaku, and Lake Titicaca.
So, for those listening in, get a piece of paper, get a pen, and write down these dates. So, the last ice age was anywhere between 11,000 to 10,000 years ago. The invention of the wheel was about 6,000 years ago. Caveman times was from anywhere from 40,000 to 10,000 years ago, and Göbekli Tepe being about 12,000 years, and then Mesopotamia about 4,500. Okay, have those dates down, put them on the side, and keep listening to all of the other places we are going to talk about. The next one I would like to mention would be, I guess, kind of considered the legendary city of Dwarka in India. This one's pretty cool. This
Big
one is
big
very
time
cool.
crazy. Big time crazy here. Big time insane. And I'll let you. I just interrupted you. What's crazy about Dwarka and this area, when you go back to the ancient text, which are significant and vast in India,
Right.
and and they talk about Dwarka. It's different pronunciations, different spellings,
And in
but
different books and different scriptures, and
all
even in the Mahabharata. So this is consistent throughout the Hindu scriptures, and we're going to get into that. So this kind of underwater city in the Gulf of Combat was found in December of 2000. And what's very interesting about this was that it was found by the National Institute of Ocean Technology. And they found just these weird type of like geometric structures. And it was just about maybe 30-40 meters below the water. And they found space dwellings, they found a granary, they found a bath, a citadel, and even a drainage system. They happened to find hand tools, fossilized bones, and even a tooth. But what they ended up kind of carbon dating was a piece of wood. The first one they found went all the way back to about 9,500 years ago. But then a little bit later, they found another piece of wood that dated back 11,500 years ago. And you're kind of like, okay, this is interesting. But for myself, what's most interesting about this quote unquote discovery is the legend attached to it, or what some Indian historians truly believe that this hidden or this underwater city might be. And that is the legendary city of Dwarka, which is the dwelling place of Krishna. And Krishna was is an avatar of Vishnu, one of the three main gods in the Hindu culture, part of the Trimurti. You have Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And this is where it gets very interesting. Here is a picture of him. But this holy city of Dwarka is based in the state of excuse me, Gujarat at the shores of the Arabian Sea. And according to the Mahabharata, the ancient Indian epic, it was established by Lord Krishna himself. And it's believed to have been established about in 3100 BCE. So after defeating and killing his uncle, Kansa, Krishna decided to migrate with the people to Dwarka with the purpose to establishing a new city. And it's said that the city was created in just one day when he summoned Vishwakarma, the architect of demigods. And this story does continue, but Jimmy, have you heard of this story before?
I have, and I've researched this a lot. I've also referenced Graham Hancock's references to this, and he talks about this in a couple of his books. And of course, he has done diving out there, and he
Right.
considers this a very, very, very important historical site. Now, but here's the crazy part: when you read the different books and the different text. Now I'm pulling this, everybody. I'm just pulling this out of my head, okay? But and you get the numbers I'm going to throw at you. You're going to think I'm making it up, but this is the historical text that there were 900,000 palaces. 900,000 palaces. Now, wait a minute. Are we talking about little houses that they're calling palaces? Are we talking, but it continues that the city Dwarka was so beautiful that the palaces were covered in gold and emeralds and rubies and gemstones, the hallways, the roads, the markets, that this was the most elegant place ever, and they enjoyed going there, and everything happened there. Right, this was like the place, and then it continues on later, where thousands of years later, where different I'll just say leaders, let's just go with that, would want to go back and visit. They had to go and visit the city that was now underwater. And this is again repeated over and over again in text from a variety of sources, that Dwarka was now covered in water. 900,000 palaces. And so how big, right? Now, do we take it in a literal sense, Christina, 900,000, or do we just accept the fact that this was a huge city, a huge cultural center, and that these numbers and these comments, covered in gems and things, may be metaphor, but the city itself was not only huge, but it was beautifully built, and this was a city of the gods and Krishna, but now underwater.
It's unbelievable. And what's amazing about this story as it continues, not only was it built in a day, but also it's believed that the land submerged, right? It just came out of the ocean and it was square like a chessboard. So you had a bunch of buildings that were made in gold. They were incredibly high, super tall buildings as well. And it stated that they could have almost touched the sky and they could have been seen everywhere like clouds. So that just goes to show just the immensity of this city. And it continues where there was this war that broke out, and the city ended up being destroyed. But here's the interesting story about this war. Krishna and Salva were using very advanced pieces of technology in this story. Well, depends how you interpret it. But to the point where Krishna stated that he used one of his missiles to just totally obliterate the opposing army. But there was so much damage that was done that the city it kind of went down with it and it flooded, and then it was submerged by the Arabian Sea. And this is all stated in the Mahabharata. And when I was reading the story, I'm just like, oh my goodness. If I was any type of archaeologist in India and I came across these ruins underwater and I connected it to this very amazing story, I would be blown away, probably in tears, being like, oh my gosh, look what I just found, if that were to be the case. So, regardless of if this truly is the holy city or not, just the fact of people placing that possible connection, it gives this entire discovery that much more beauty and that much more weight as well.
Yes, and here's the other part. I am sure that the first question everybody has is, well, why aren't we, why don't we have submersibles? Why aren't we scuba diving? Why aren't we, getting archaeologists down there? Why aren't we researching this area? We are. And you can go and look at different videos and different expeditions that have been attempted. But this is the crazy part. It's one of the most active tidal areas. It's
Right.
nearly impossible to scuba dive there because you are right. It's not still. Right? It's crazy, the tides and the way that this ocean action happens in this area. It's very, very difficult. You can't do anything stable, and you can't get it done. It's very, very dangerous. But it has been mapped. There's been a lot of sonar mapping of this area, and you can clearly see it. It's big. It's big. It goes up and down the coastline. It goes out kilometers into the ocean, and it is a huge, ginormous area. We can see it. We can see the construction. We can see the square that you're talking about. We can see that type of construction there. We know it exists. It's just treacherous to go and try to research and get things done. You're not just jumping in the water off the side of a boat like you're in Key Largo or in Key West and doing a little tourist snorkeling. That's not what happens in this area. Not at all. It takes a professional expedition and effort to go and do this. Graham Hancock has tried to do that. Well, he has done it, but it's futile. It's very tough to do it just as a scuba diver. So somebody like him that's done this a lot around the world, and he has identified, so many have identified this area, and we know how important it is. It's just tough.
And it seems that a lot of these mysterious underwater cities that have a legend attached to it, which isn't all of them, but it's only a good handful. When you do attempt to dive, you are dealing with a lot of difficulty. And there's another one that's very similar, and it's in Japan.
Love it.
And
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Gloves on. One of the most disputed sites in the world. This has broken up marriages, ended friendships. Countries have fallen. Men have died debating this. Just go, and I'll give you my opinions.
so, Jim, you make me laugh.
It's so true. Though. It's so true. I've got 2 or 3 very, very close friends, and I have intentionally, very famous people, I've intentionally brought up this site just to watch them go fisticuffs, tipping over tables, throwing dinner plates. Oh man, I love it. I love it.
So this is the Yonaguni Monument, and this was found by a local diver in the 1980s, actually by accident. A diver was looking for a good place to find hammerhead sharks, and then he came across these really odd, I mean, perfect 90-degree angle structures. You got straight walls. There were steps, like 2 stairs, okay? Columns, and even what appears to be a human face carved in the rock. And this is only about maybe 35 feet below the surface. So, very soon after this, a team of scientists visited the underwater structure and concluded that it had to be man made. The only logical explanation is that the structure was built when the site was above sea level, which is about 10,000 years BC. Okay, so we're looking at probably right before the Ice Age, just like barely right there. And what's incredibly interesting about this location is, of course, the legend. Could this be the lost continent of Mu?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Atlantis. I thought you were going. The big A. Yeah, now,
People think that as well.
yeah, they do. They should. Now, let me back up, everybody. I want to address what Cristina just said. That sea level at 10,000 years ago. That's to the top of the monument. It's 35 feet below the surface of the ocean, depending on where the tides are at that time of day. But to get down to the bottom of this structure, we could be talking about 30, 35, 40, 50,000 years ago. And that's where any archaeologist, anybody that is trying to study history and talk about things, that's where they draw the line. Ain't anything happening like this 50,000 years ago. But and that's one of the things that has upset so many different academics around the world when it comes to Yonaguni. Now, let's talk about those angles.
I mean, look at that.
Robert Schoch, who obviously we all respect, and I take him very, very serious. And Boston University geologist, 10-year professor, Dr. Robert Schock. When we have talked about Yonaguni both privately and publicly on Fade to Black, he says natural. Now, I have to respect his opinion, but I disagree. I completely disagree. Now, when I look at these images, to suggest that I realize that things like this happen naturally. Sure, I get that, but not that. I don't see that. My eyes don't see that as being natural. It just doesn't. But and there's stairs and things. Now he has given his explanation for it, but I have to just respectfully step back from his totally professional and educated opinion and apply my doofus side of things and say that I don't see, my eyes don't see that as being natural. It just doesn't. And I think that we are looking at a historical megalithic temple that was constructed 50,000 years ago off the coast of Japan.
It's truly unbelievable. Now, what are your thoughts on the continent of Mu? This was news to me. I had never heard of anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
I was taken aback, and I had to do extensive research just to kind of get a grasp of this story.
Mm-hmm. Um,
So, tell
I,
me about it.
yeah. I think that whole area um, uh, could probably was above water, and there was a continent there called Mu. And Mu isn't the only possibility of something like this being in this area. And you can go also west of Australia, all the way up into the coastline of India, throughout that part of the world where there's I think that it was all above water, that there was not land bridges. I just believe that everything was above, and we had much more land that was there. Now, the continent of Mu, when you see it laid out, and you can go to Google Earth and you can look at all of this, which includes things like Hawaii, right? And how these island chains and things are created. I believe that Mu, whatever you want to call it, that there was a continent there, and there were probably many more around the world over the last billion years that are now underwater, and Mu represents that. Now, was Mu Atlantis? Yeah, there's Lemuria, possibly. There's Atlantis. We have to think about where we are today, and the size of the oceans, and how big they are, and where we are right now. Uh, it was a different place back then. It literally was. And here's the other thing. Okay, and then we'll move on. I'm looking at the clock, and I'm looking at our list of things that we need to get into. Plus, I've got some surprises that Christina doesn't know about. Is this water is water, people? Doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't. It's either on the ground making oceans, or it's up in the atmosphere, but water is water. Doesn't go anywhere. It simply doesn't. When we went through the periods 65, 100 million years ago, with dinosaurs roaming the earth, that was a different atmosphere. It was a different atmosphere. Humans probably couldn't breathe, couldn't live. It was a different atmosphere. We think that the earth has always been like this. It hasn't. There were periods where temperatures were different, things were different. There was more H2O up in the atmosphere than down on the ground. And things have changed over the years. Water is water. That's it. That's it. And you drink it, you pee it out, right? It's still here. It's just the way it is, and it's not going to change. And so, what was different back then? We probably had a surface of the earth that we couldn't recognize, and there was a time when there were almost no oceans. Right, everything was volcanic and everything was covered in rocks. Think about that. So there you go. Was it? Did Mu exist? Yeah, I think so. And so did many other continents.
It just goes to show how incredibly fascinating the Earth is. And while we might be musing about space, there's still so little that we know about our planet. So, looking at these underwater cities, these underwater ruins, it opens my mind to all of these different possibilities. But also, I have this little sliver of sadness, like this, just like this slight sliver of sadness where I think, why can't this just be like genuinely accepted? Why can't it be a possibility or place on the table? It's like, no, this is not science. And I'm just like, but what about all? Let's just say it's a legend or a folklore. Like, why can't we just casually talk about this without being classified as crazy or a conspiracy theorist? So that little sliver of sadness, but overall a huge sense of enthusiasm and excitement to be able to rediscover, at least for myself, these ancient stories. NatureCam HD, thank you so much. It says, you and Jimmy have a great report. I love your show. When you get a chance, please Google a photo of Wolfman Jack and tell me if he doesn't remind you of somebody we all love. I'll have to
Why?
Google it.
I don't see it. I don't see it, and I hear it every single day.
I
Somebody
don't know who. I don't know.
email with a picture of Wolfman Jack and some hysterically funny laughing emoji. And I don't see it. I don't, but I guess I guess it's there. I don't see it. I don't
It's
see
supposed to look like you.
it. Yeah.
I don't see it.
You don't see it. Pop it up. What did you pull up?
Okay, I will do the pulling ups right now. To me, it doesn't look like you. If I had to pick someone, I might say it looks a little bit more like George Knapp.
Man, I get George Knapp. Thank
Just
you.
like a little bit more
He's a,
than it compared to you.
he's nappy. He's nappy. He's nappy. I don't see, but everybody's. I don't know. I don't see it. This guy's handsome. This guy looks like he's cool and a big bowl of fun. Not this guy with the Rick and Morty shirt on. That's a whole nother consideration. But people see it, so good for them. So,
Okay.
all right,
Well,
all right.
let's talk about the Baltic Sea anomaly.
Oh, you're gonna blindside me. That's not an underground city. Or
No, but it is something very peculiar that was found in our oceans. This, I mean,
in the Baltic
th-
Sea.
there's a lot of controversy with this picture.
Mm-hmm.
When some say, yep, it's definitely some type of obscure picture, right? Structure. And then you have other people saying, no, the glaciers did this. It's glacier deposits. It has to be with these straight lines and perfect cuts. So there's a lot of controversy when it comes to this story. But
Keep this picture up for a second. There's another part to this, though. Now, some say the Millennium Falcon and it's a UFO
right.
and it's this. Okay, I get that. But here is something that is not discussed as much as it should be. So when you look at this image, you look at the left and you see the natural floor of the Baltic Sea. When you look to the right, you see how it's smooth. That's because this object, whatever it is, slid along the ocean floor and stopped at this point. There is a nice smooth track. I don't know the distance. I think it's almost a mile where this thing entered the ocean somehow, hit the bottom of the floor, skidded along, and stopped here. Now, was it a meteorite? Right? An asteroid was something that came in from the atmosphere and crashed into the Baltic Sea, hit the bottom, slid along, and stopped here. Okay. What if it was a flying saucer that came into the atmosphere, crashed into the Baltic Sea, skidded along the bottom, and stopped here? That part is interesting. Could the other striations and the markings? This is a heavily Photoshop and redone image. It doesn't quite look like this. But that being said, the sea floor is smooth on one side, and you can see the track mark from this object, and then it's level on the or it's the natural seabed to the left there. Now, I think it sits under 150 feet of water. It's cold. It's at a depth that is not easy to get to. 150,000 feet or 150 feet, Jimmy. That's easy. No, it's not. That is at the absolute maximum end of deep sea diving. 50 feet is getting deep. You get down to 150 feet, now you need specialized equipment. And there's been a lot of investigation of this object over the years. Don't know what it is. I think it's something that crashed into the Baltic Sea, skidded across the bottom, and ended up here. What it actually is, I don't know, but it is an anomaly, which means it doesn't fit the area that is around it.
Absolutely not. And if it was, right, glacial deposits, why don't we see these all around the world? No, we just see massive boulder piles from glaciers. So
Yep.
I think it's a cover story. I'm thinking my eyes and logic scream ancient artificial structure
Mhm.
or possibly craft. I mean, look at those steps. There is no way this looks natural.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not natural. It hasn't been there for 3 billion years. I don't think that's the case. It definitely crashed into the Baltic Sea, skidded it along the bottom of the seabed, and stopped where it is now. That I think is fact. I just don't know what the object is, but it's cool. I love it. Found by accident too. Found by accident.
That seems to be a rather continuous theme. Things found by accident, and oh my goodness, did they just jump in a pile of gold?
Yeah, like earlier
If
today, I found a bowl of ramen by accident. It was by accident. Just okay. Next,
well,
Can we go to next? Look at the time.
yeah. So
How did this show blow by like this?
talking about ramen, which I could do that all day, every day. But I want to talk about another type of pretty weird looking anomaly, and that is the Stonehenge in Lake Michigan.
That's where I was going next.
Okay, cool. See, we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, we are. We are. This one's a good one. This one's cool. Well, they're all good,
They're
but
all good.
this is a good one. I've got some images too. I actually have this image. Okay, tell us about the Lake Michigan Stonehenge. I grew up on Lake Michigan. I love this story and what is going on here.
So, also found by accident, while we're on that type of linear train of thought, also found by accident. But this is about 40 meters below the surface of Lake Michigan. It's believed to date back at least 10,000 years ago. Now, remember, have that sheet of paper that I told you the dates earlier. Look at that. Almost doesn't make sense, okay, based off the average, the conventional understanding of human history. So the reason to why it's called the Stonehenge in Lake Mary and in Lake Michigan is because you are having rocks, right? These stones going in a type of circle, and they're rather tall, anywhere from about 3.5 feet to 5 feet tall. And what's interesting about this is that there's probably about 100 stones that stand in the circle, which is incredibly peculiar. Here is a sonar version of what we're seeing here. And then what's really interesting about this is that there was this carving on one of the stones. That is pretty well done. I'll put that out there first. That's a very well done type of carving. But this structure was found really not too long ago. It kind of came out publicly in 2007 when one of the professors, Mark Hawley, a professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern Michigan College, kind of stumbled across this, and he wrote a paper on it. But he practically stated in a conference that the size, shaping, and placement of the stones seem to indicate they are not naturally occurring. If that is the case, the stones must have been placed when the lake bed was dry, which was around the last ice age.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty freaky.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead and share my image because it's your image, but laid out with some numbers here. So this is 40 feet deep. The stone circle. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Now we can, we have the technology to be a pointer. Here's the stone circle here in the middle. And that was the first image that Cristina posted. This is 40 feet deep. This is 293 feet across. And then you have this line of stones that goes for 300 feet. And then on the opposite side, where this is 200 feet in a straight line. And then on the opposite side of the stone circle, which is here in the middle that you saw that is very Stonehenge like, we have this series of stones out here. And we don't know exactly what this represents, but it's certainly not natural. Now
Right.
we go back and let me pull this up here and I think I've got a clearer image. Yeah. So let's, hold on for a second. What is going on with my share? Let me stop that share. Let me start another share.
Ooh.
This up because this is a higher res image of the mastodon. Now, I've also got, I might have another image. I'm not going to worry about it now. Oh, I do. I think I have it here. I've got another. It doesn't matter. Let's just stay with this. I've got this without it highlighted and the color, right?
Right.
It's really fun. It is this carving. It's not pareidolia. It's not, no. This
No.
is the carving of a mastodon on this rock that is submerged right now under 40 feet of water. And yes, the last ice age and before. Remember, we keep going, the last ice age. The last ice age, when it ended, at 10,000 BC, that's when the changes were happening.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that Lake Michigan was a dry lake bed at that time. No. You could push this back 20,000 years, 30,000 years. That is just the dividing line of the last ice age. Because if somebody is carving a mastodon on a rock, when were mastodons last roaming North America and up around Lake Michigan? So you are talking 15,000, 20,000 years ago or before that date. But they clearly knew what a mastodon was, and they carved it here. Now, this is the other thing that has been suggested about this. Now, the comparison to Stonehenge, that's publicity. We don't have Stonehenge. We're talking about giant, 20, 30, 40 foot tall megalithic stones in a semicircle. That's not what is represented here. We don't have 40-foot, 100-ton stones, right? That's not what we're dealing with. But we are dealing with a culture that did place these stones for hundreds of feet. And what were they done for? Maybe herding mastodons, which is crazy to me to have an ancient culture with the artistic ability to go and carve stuff like this on the side of the rock. And was this to herd animals, right? To to bring them into a certain direction. And
What?
what's so funny?
No, I am so freaking
Are
excited just talking about
you
this.
looking at the teacher? I want an apple. If
Just
you're gonna laugh, you gotta share with the class. Okay, but think about this for a second. North America is ignored when it comes to stuff like this, Christina.
that's
Completely
right.
ignored, and we have evidence of cultures being here, from San Diego to Chaco Canyon. We have mound builders. We have the Serpent Mound. We have this structure at underneath Lake Michigan, which
And that's why we speak to people like Scott Wolter to
that's
keep us educated and
correct. He is fascinated with Lake Superior, Lake Erie, Huron, Lake Michigan. There is evidence of copper mining. Copper mining. And that wasn't
bizarre.
supposed to exist. So, yes, this is real. What was the reason for it? I think that this mastodon carved on the side of this rock is an indication of not prehistoric art. I don't think it was done for art. I think it's a road sign. Okay, mastodons enter here. Yes, I'm being serious.
Hey, look, I'm all for it. I am all for it. Polyhedral, thank you so much. It says Mysteries of the History is quickly becoming one of my favorite shows. You two work great together. And to have it lead up to Fader Night, oofa. Thanks, y'all.
Right on. Very cool.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. But yeah, I think it's like a road sign. And this is, by the way, we only did this. There are other versions of this in the other Great Lakes. Yes. Oh, yes. 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 Other versions of it.
That's news to me.
Lake Superior's got their own prehistoric mastodon roadway. Yep. Yep.
I am all for that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, what's next?
So the next one, the one I think that's my favorite, is the Dragon's Triangle.
There's no such thing.
Yes,
Where's
there
this?
is. The
Where's
Dragon's Triangle? It's right off the coast of Japan, Guam, and the Philippines.
Uh-huh.
This one is very cool because it's an entire location, very much like the Bermuda Triangle, but I think even cooler.
Why?
So, well, I am going to tell you that because it's very awesome. Because we already briefly touched on Japan, and then we kind of skipped this one. So I want to bring it back to the east, right? Okay, so first off, some believe that the continent of Mu could have possibly been in the Dragon's Triangle. But what's really interesting about this place, again, it's very much like the Bermuda Triangle. People have gone missing. A total of some believe to be about 700 people have gone missing since time of documentation. But what's really weird about this is that in 1274 to about 1281 AD, Genghis Khan's grandson, Kumbali Khan, tried to invade Japan, but when he was traveling through the Dragon's Triangle, he lost his vessels and over 40,000 crew members. Now, reportedly, it's believed that they were taken by typhoons. But this place gets even more bizarre. So the naming originates from an ancient Chinese tale about seafaring dragons, which would rise up from the depths to consume sailors and their vessels. This story is more than about 3 centuries old, and many theories have attempted to use it as a starting point in their research, looking at weather or undersea geologic events to explain how it came to exist. So the fact that the area is riddled with undersea volcanoes does kind of lead strength to how the tale may have started. A violent release of gases and lava, even those several thousand feet below the surface, would have chilling effects on the ocean surface in proximity to the eruption. But here's the thing, it's so weird that Japan even did research on this area, but then they abruptly finished it when they lost one of their vessels.
Mm.
And Amelia Earhart in 1937 sent her last SOS from the area of the Dragon's Triangle before her compass and instruments failed and she was never heard of again. And there's more to that, but so far, I just find it such a peculiar place and one that I had heard for the first time by Mike Ricksecker, a paranormal investigator who's also on KUNX. And I was like, what? A dragon's triangle? That sounds really weird. How come I've never heard of it? So I was very excited to do the research for this show looking into this because it really is that weird. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there has even been UFO sightings coming out of the water. So it makes you question, and this is consistent throughout centuries. So it makes you question, is there a type of underwater base there? Why did the Japanese conduct a study in the 1950s and then abruptly end it? Did they find something? Or were they kicked out? Or was it really just volcanic gases that made it too dangerous? That's why I'm bringing this up. But for those in the live chat and those listening, have you heard of the Dragon's Triangle and do you find it fascinating? Because I
It's
do.
fascinating. And if we go, just go and do a little brief history of Japan and the culture, right? You know what it's based on? We
What?
came from aliens, and the spaceships came out of the ocean, right? That's it. That's it right there from the Dragon's Triangle. Think about that for a second, and some of the depictions, and you look at some of the art. What's so funny about that? I came from aliens. I'm wearing a Rick and Morty T-shirt. I come
I
from
didn't
aliens. What's so
I
funny?
didn't say anything was funny.
She's laughing at me. This is part of the accept. This is Japanese ancient history. Um, uh, uh, Flying saucers from the ocean. Like literally, this is the way that this is spelled out. And then you look at Yonaguni and some of the other. I talked about some of the time travel aspects to this, all from this island culture right there in this part of Asia. I find it completely fascinating. And here's the other thing, though. Um, when we look at um, okay, I'm just gonna be. Can we talk? Can we talk? Can I just lay it out? The
Yes.
United States is 250 years old. That's it. We don't have any history here. We don't have anything to, think about. Something to put in establish. We don't have great temples, like they have in Greece or Rome or Egypt. We don't have those things. Everything here is new. Our oldest temple is like McDonald's in Downey, California. That's as old as we get. We don't have that. And so if we had an established culture here saying things like, 5,000 years ago, this is how it went down. 10,000 years ago, this is how it went down. But they have that in Asia. They have that in India. They have that in Egypt. They have that throughout the Mediterranean. And we have to stop, Christina, like you said, and start to take these creation stories, these origin stories, take them serious and start to take them a little more literally and examine it like Japan. Japan, this is thousands and thousands of years old, and this has been written and repeated over and over again. Is this origin story based on fact? I think that it is. I really do. You look at India and you look at Dwarka. and we examine that, and then we apply Plato, and we apply the Edfu text in Egypt, and the Epic of Gilgamesh. And I'm not talking about the Bible. I'm talking about what everybody else has been saying for thousands and thousands of years, and it all goes back to a cosmic event, floods, lands disappearing, cities disappearing beneath the oceans, and that's where we are today.
That is where we are today. Rob, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. And Skyhawk says 1989 Charles Burlett's the Dragon's Triangle, great book. First, I read about it, and that is correct. I was going to mention that, but he did do extensive research on the whole situation, what was happening in and around the Dragon's Triangle. And that's why I was doing a lot of research for today's show on it, because you have multiple UFO sightings. You have things that people might believe to be ruins or remnants of the missing continent of Mu, but also the very famous Japanese story of the Utsurubune in 1803. Could this type of extraterrestrial have come from the Dragon's Triangle over to the Hitachi province?
It
Well,
did. It did. Oh, look at you. Look
yeah,
at you. This is your next subject. I'm glad you brought this up.
in
The
Cuba.
pyramids of Cuba, undersea. And now let's talk about this. People bring this up all the time. This, I was going to say, it created a lot of waves many years ago, literally. Now, this is off the coast of Cuba. There are lots of images. You can go and look at them. Some of them been enhanced and photoshopped and things. But let's remember what we are talking about here. We're talking about off of the coast of Cuba, and the Cuban government is not going to allow anything going on off of the coast of their country. That's just the way it is, especially, the evil empire of the United States. They're not going to allow us to go down there. Their words, not mine. To allow us to go and do an extensive expedition off of the coast of Cuba. Again, found quite by accident. And this has gone back and forth over the years, where it appeared that through efforts of the United Nations and some international efforts outside of the United States to go in and examine what was and is purported to be down there. This is stills from videos, a video, and which you can go and see online. But it shows avenues, it shows squares. When I say squares, not shapes. I'm talking about town squares, um,
Mm.
a temple complex. This image here shows 3 pyramids. There are more, and quite tall, by the way. I think the latest measurements that have been applied to this are you're looking at 300 to 400 feet tall, the same sizes that we would see over in Giza. But again, right off the coast of Cuba, right there. Could this be, a Central American type of city structure? Could it be Mayan? I don't know what it represents, but we have to immediately go and look at that timetable that you have been pointing out over and over again tonight. For this to be above water, you're looking at least 10,000 years ago, but probably closer to 50.
And which is unbelievable. My brain can't even wrap around that. 50,000 years ago, where humanity was able to create these beautiful and pretty large structures. But then I'm coming around this once again. The wheel was invented 6,000 years ago. Come on.
6,000? No. 3,500 years ago. 6,000 years ago. No. The wheel. But your point is so well taken, right? When the pyramids were built at 2,500 BC, which is 4,500 years ago, they didn't have the wheel.
Right. And yet they can make these ginormous cities with
Point
like.
taken. Point taken. I'm
I
not,
just.
Christina, I don't want people to think that I'm correcting you. I'm not.
No. And it's okay if you do, because at the end of the day, you are my mentor. You have helped me so much to grasp this topic.
I learned from you.
I learned from you.
I'm learning how to smile. But yeah, right. We have to think about things in a historical context.
That's right.
And here's the thing. I'm so glad you brought up the wheel and metallurgy. And they want to put finite dates on this, right? That the wheel was invented here at this specific time. Therefore, this other stuff couldn't have been done. They are going to be digging. What if, they're at Göbekli Tepe, right? They're going to be digging somewhere where they have dated, right? This is 12,000 years ago. This is 10,000 BC. We've carbon dated this site. They're going to be digging, and they're going to a car tire. Right? Something is going to pop up. They're going to go, oh.
Maybe it already did and it just wasn't released to the public.
Got that right. You got that right. We're on the verge of that. We are on the verge of that. So anyway, I thank you for bringing this up. I'm so glad that you brought up the Cuban pyramids. Let me see.
Well, let's talk about the one that everyone wants to hear. We got a few minutes left. We got about 10 minutes. Let's talk about Atlantis.
Sure, the big A.
The big, ginormous Atlantis.
Atlantis, the big A. Okay, so where we have, man, I almost gave away a secret. I'll tell you off of the air what I almost slipped up on. Oh, I think I told you. Might have told you earlier this week on the phone. Atlantis is something that I'm very, very interested in. The question is,
where is it?
Where is it? Where could it be? And now, no, let me ask you, Cristina, when you're doing your research, if you were, to suggest where you think Atlantis may be, I don't know. What's your research? What direction are you being pointed in?
Well, it seems that all of these ruins that we've discussed so far, most people that discover them believe that they have come across Atlantis, or at least their version of Atlantis. So where do I think it is? Well, people have been trying to look for it for forever. There's been TV shows or people do hunts on where could Atlantis be. But as for myself, it's incredibly difficult to say. Once again, Earth is 70% water, oceans, right? Only less than 10% have been deeply looked at. So it could be literally anywhere, or maybe we could be taking it a little bit too literally and it might be in another dimension. We don't know this, but if I had to guess, I might want to say Antarctica.
Ah, well done. Well played, grasshopper. Well
Take
done.
the pebble from my hand.
Yes, well done. Well played. I think you might be onto something there. I do. And then, but we have, I'm with you. Like if I was going to, if I was a betting man, I'm going Antarctica. And I'm going Antarctica for a lot of different reasons. But one that, for Antarctica to be in a more tropical area, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of years ago. And I think that's where you need time for a civilization to establish itself and to get to that technical level of things. So yeah, I'm with you on that. But then we have other things like we have Bemini Road. right? Bemini Road. And you look at Bemini Road, which is real. This is not imaginary. What could have built that structure? And if you go back and look at the Perry Reese map, and you look up in that area, there is an island which looks like, to me, on that map, that has Bemini Road that is depicted as part of the map. Now, how could that have been done at 1000 AD, whenever the Perry Reese map surfaced, which came from Persian maps out of Persia and Turkey? How would they have known about the Bemini Road, right? Which,
Exactly.
yeah, clearly depicted on these maps. So could that represent something? And then we have the island of Britannia, and which is off the coast, the western side of the United Kingdom. And could that be Atlantis? Could there have been an island chain? You can go further out. Now, could it be? Remember, Plato always talked about Atlantis being outside of the Straits of Gibraltar, in Spain
Right.
and Morocco. Possibly, yes. And I think that a lot of researchers do the right thing and take it literally. Atlantis, the Atlantic Ocean, and it must have been out there.
Right.
There are researchers that point at, again, over in Mu, and off of, in the Pacific Ocean, and also in the Indian Ocean to the west of Australia, that it is possible that Atlantis could have been there too as well. I appreciate all of that research. I'm going Antarctica. I am. I remember I did this thing with I'm trying to think who was on the panel. I know John Anthony West was. I know Graham Hancock was on the panel. I'm trying to think. Oh, Robert Bivall was on this panel, and this is what Dr. Robert Schoch said. He goes, Jimmy, I'm going to talk about the big A. No, really? He goes, oh, you think it's aliens? No. In academia, it's now aliens are like safe. It didn't used to be safe. Aliens used to be the big A, but it's not anymore. You know what you can't talk about in academia? Atlantis. And I said, really? He said, that's the big A these days. You can talk about aliens all you want now. Talk about Atlantis. That's the kiss of death. You just can't go there. And I find that really interesting. So if you're a 10-year professor and you're looking for funding and you're going to these different foundations and you're looking for funding for your research, so you could have your other researchers around you and maybe money to go out and search and look and do you can do whatever you want. You can do aliens. You can't do Atlantis, Cristina. It's not going to happen. You're in college. Do it. It's right in class. Just do it. Okay, but Cristina, you have a question? Yeah, what about Atlantis? Just go there. Go there.
I'll just mention that my professors already don't like me. I don't want to fail any of my courses. Thank you.
Yeah, don't bring up Atlantis then. Don't bring up Atlantis. Anybody else have a question?
Literally anybody else. It's just me. Pick me.
But you can't do it. It's really, really sad where you have not only Edfu in Egypt, and which I think are some of the most important texts anywhere in the world, but when we go back to the historical record and we talk about Plato, was Plato crazy? Well, you know what? Was this made up? No, I think Plato was very serious and very genuine, and he was trying to, not only when it comes to philosophy, but history, where I think that he was intentionally trying to make sure that what was relayed to him, whether it was text or spoken word, that he wanted this preserved, and he wrote this stuff down. And I think Plato's version of Atlantis was based on what he wanted to say for us in the future, and not to dismiss this.
So then what are your thoughts on Edgar Casey, the American clairvoyant who made a bunch of readings, and some of them dealing with Atlantis,
the big
the
A.
big A.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this, man. Edgar Casey has turned out to be right on everything that he has ever.
I mean, he did 14,000 plus readings, so I would hope that at least a few of them would be right.
And my mom had all his books, man. I mean, and I was 5 years old. I'm like, who's Edgar Casey? That was like the first, when I learned how to read, when I finally learned how to read, I think the first things out of my mouth was, who's this Edgar Casey guy? Because we had shelves and shelves and shelves of his books. But
Wow.
the things about Edgar Casey that seemed outlandish, like the library underneath the Sphinx paw, right? Well, you know what? That was just like crazy talk. But now it turns out underneath the Sphinx paw, there's a tunnel going down to a room. What does that lead to? Is this the scrolls of knowledge preserved for us? I don't know, but the tunnel is there. And there's another one on the backside of the Sphinx that wasn't supposed to be there. Going down to the tomb of Osiris. Is this possible? Going 10 stories down? Yes, it's all there. So Edgar Casey's version of Atlantis, did he know about Plato's writing? I don't know. I don't know these things, but Edgar Casey and his version of Atlantis lines up pretty well with everybody else. Now, are we talking about Lemuria? Are we talking about an ancient civilization that was high tech, that had versions of things? Did they have a version of CERN? Right? Were they so advanced where they were using alternative power supplies? Did they have knowledge of crystals? Did they have storage devices? Did they have computers? Did Atlantis sink, and then the savers, the keepers of this knowledge, went north, south, east, and west, where they went into Asia, they went into what is now Russia. Did they go into Northern Europe? Did they go to Great Britain? Stonehenge, for example. Did they go into the Mediterranean? Did they go into Egypt? Did they go into Persia? And save this knowledge for later civilizations? Could this be what built Göbekli Tepe? I don't know, but these structures, this knowledge from around the world is always taught. You're not inventing anything. Everything is taught to you, Cristina. Everything is taught. Everything is brought to you from somebody else. And is that what Atlantis did? Not at 10,000 BC. This knowledge was spread around the world hundreds of thousands of years ago. And I firmly believe that. So did it come from Antarctica? I think only time will tell. But if I was gonna pick an area, it wouldn't be in the Atlantic Ocean. It wouldn't be in the Pacific. I think that we need to look underneath the ice in Antarctica, and we'll get our answers.
And he says a lot about Atlantis, but a big reason to why I bring up Edgar Casey is because next week's show is going to be about reincarnation, which he wrote about extensively, as well as Atlantis. Jimmy, this is all the time that we have for today. Today is a Fader night. Make sure to call in on Fade to Black. Jimmy, as always, thank you so much for being my co-host and to opening my mind to all of these stories and ones that I haven't even heard of as well. So, anything else you want to say before you drop out of here?
Rick and Morty. Cristina, you are the best. I'll see you tonight on Fader Night. It's open lines. I'll be talking to all of you tonight. And there you go. Another great show. Cristina, you're the best. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me into your space. You're the best.
Bye, Jimmy. Well, thank you for everyone watching this show live. Once again, next Thursday on Mysteries with the History, it's going to be reincarnation. Tomorrow, Strange Paradigms at 3 p.m. PST is going to be myself and with my co host, John Russell, psychic medium. You don't want to miss it. There's a lot of very interesting articles that were dropped this week. So make sure to subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and also like the video. Lastly, in the comments, let me know which was your favorite city ruins that we covered in today's show. I want to wish you all a wonderful day and be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.